So do you feel that your ethnicity prevents you from certain roles?
Sometimes. Because I mean, like, there's a lot of people that are saying, like, oh, Asians are getting more in. But then you have to remember there's such a big wide range of Asians. You have Chinese, Vietnamese, Thailand, Filipino. That's a lot. But I mean, like, you can't just put it to one. There's so many different types. But I mean, like, I hope like I have it in just because a lot of Filipinos do look Mexican, and sometimes they do look for that Mexican role. So I mean, like, I think I probably have a better chance than, I mean, Filipinos have a better chance than other Asians. But at the same time, you have to weigh it out because they also want Chinese. You know what I mean? They always want the Chinese strict family role too. So I think having this ethnicity that I have is a bit difficult to get in, like, acting and everything.
But just as an example, I've had meetings with agents, or I've had managers tell me that agents won't see me because they already have an Asian guy. You know, that's just one example where, you know, you're allowed to have all kinds of different white women and white men, but you're allowed to have one Asian girl and one Asian guy, you know? And my manager has tried to convince agents to say, hey, listen, he's a little bit different, or he's this and that. But they're like, well, we already have an Asian guy, and that Asian guy can pretty much do everything, you know? So, you know, finding representation has been a really kind of an interesting journey. So that's similar to casting, you know? I do a lot of theater, and that's certainly been the case where they talk about diversity casting, but, you know, signing the check is a different animal. You know, to get them to actually like sign on the dotted line to say, I'm going to cast you, that's a bigger decision. So they're all, a lot of them are very interested in meeting you and seeing your shows, but to actually, you know, cast an Asian American lead in a role that's not written for an Asian American, or in a play that's not about the, you know, isn't an identity, you know, driven piece. It's a different dialogue, you know, because, you know, it's like if you have, I mean, it's if you have a show that's like got 4 different, you know, white men and women, and you have 1 minority, then it's like, okay, well, that's good. But then if you suddenly have, you know, 3 minorities and 1 white guy, then it's like, is this story about race? Is this story about black people or Asian people? You know, I think that lingers in the back of a lot of people's minds. I don't think it's as on the surface, but as a minority, I certainly see kind of hints of that, you know, that they're almost afraid to make things too ethnic or too cultural, as opposed to, no, it's just an American story.
Yes. Especially in the non-union section of work, just because a lot of like student films and low budget movies always look for the all-American type, which is either black or white, and I'm neither, so it's like really hard to go out for that, or actually not hard, I can't just go out for that role, because it's just like, you know, we need a white, blonde, skinny female, or we need, you know, the typical ghetto black girl, and it's just like, well, I can't do. So yeah, yes, I do think that I'm kind of limited in my roles.
As an African American and as a female, you're not gonna have a lot of roles that are just written for you. I get a lot of that. And so I'm like, well, how do I break into the industry? You know, I'm African American, I'm young, and I'm a female. No. Well, what's the yes? So I've been focusing on that, and I feel like there are roles for me. And I've been seeing a lot more roles come out for me. And it's not necessarily the main character, but I'm here doing what I love to do. So it's not about being the main character for me. It's about, you know, doing what I love to do, making a living out of it, and just enjoying my job.